This is the Convo Lounge. Expression, exposure, experience.
Welcome to the Convo Lounge, a podcast season 2, episode 5 of the Convo Lounge podcast. And today we are going to be having a conversation with a leading expert in the environmental sustainability and governance specialist. She, yes, him and her, hims and hams. Welcome to the Convo Lounge podcast, yet another exciting episode where we are going to be having yet another conversation. And today we are joined in studio by an ESG expert and chief environmentalist at Green Loop, Miss Lindiwe Modise. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, Bakang. Thanks for having us.
Goody. So let's just start off here. Your chief environmentalist and environmental sustainability and governance specialist. What does that entail? Just give us a high level view of what a day in the life of an ESG specialist is.
It's a mouthful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so by profession, I'm a scientist. My first degree is in microbiology, but my second degree, I ventured into environmental management for my master's. I studied in Russia for 8.5 years, rounding it off, 7.5. So basically,
Yeah.
mo Botswana. And I'm a certified environmental practitioner in Botswana under the board, environmental practitioners that licenses us every year. With that license, it enables Green Loop through myself to undertake environmental impact assessments, which are studies that we undertake as per the Environmental Act, which was adopted in 2005. For us to see how different various sector projects could potentially impact the environment, the communities within it, wildlife, but following governance, and compliance. And we undertake these studies for one to know if it's possible for them to undertake a certain project in the country of Botswana, looking at how the legislative tool has been set.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get your project rejected because they harm the environment a lot. And sometimes you have a medium scale impact, your project has medium scale impacts which can be mitigated.
Yeah.
So the whole aim is for us not to reject your projects, but to show you how you can implement your project while taking care of the environment at the same time and the communities that live within it.
Yeah.
So that's why I started my profession. But as time went on, I looked at my 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Where's the world going? The world is going more into the sustainability way of things, and that's where internationals are right now, and eventually that's where Botswana has to get to. Then I took a step further. Okay, let me do a holistic profession of encompassing how operations can operate sustainably after undertaking an EIA.
Yeah. Because I was wondering where you saw the opportunity. I mean, having studied microbiology and then furthering your studies for a master's in the space, what's the opportunity in Botswana? How has the industry been like? What did you see that actually got you to push towards that?
I graduated in 2015, my first degree, and I was sponsored by the government of Botswana for both my degrees. I came back at the time we were severely first hit by drought. Since my existence. So I came back and I prepared a proposal to the environmental department, which was funding us, to say, guys, I really want to go back to school to go now and study on the rehabilitation of wastewater to potable water. Because we were not prepared for drought. And these are things that we are now being reactive to. But in the normal world, we should have known that it's coming. Looking at the climate change impacts and patterns for the upcoming years. So that's how I transitioned when I saw opportunity that the sector of environment is not really tapped into. Even as specialists that were certified, we're not more than 200 in Botswana or more than 300. We're a very minute group. And it's also because legislative tools are not really implemented and laws are not enforced. The police will stop us for passing a traffic light or not having a seatbelt on. But no one will charge you for littering. But you can actually go to jail if you read our Environmental Act for littering in Botswana or polluting waters. That's why water utilities has acts that are in place for you to, if you're an industry, before you let water out into the streams, you need to pre-treat that water first for it to be at a quality that doesn't harm the environment if it flows back into our rivers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now, when we talk about this ESG being environment, sustainability, and governance, what is that, and how does that, play a role in our economy right now? I mean, it's a term that we see it flowing, I think, in most of the corporates now.
Yeah. Right now, ESG is the beaming word. Yeah. But luckily for us, we've been saying ESG since the 4 years we started. So we turned 4 this month in September.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. But since our first year, we've been saying ESG sustainability. And I'm so happy because we didn't need to wait for 10 years for people to start rioting about this thing now. Yeah. So E stands for environment, which is the environment we live in, the plants, the ecosystem. Then S stands for social, the communities I get within. And G stands for governance, which is compliance. Yeah. Reporting, how do you report better? So these are ESG KPIs, are key performance indicators that a company uses to see how they can achieve certain goals of sustainability after 5 years. Yeah. And I'm not going to go to saying 5-10 years because I was recently in a strategy meeting with my consultant and he's like, never plan for 10 years, at least plan for 5 because there'll be minute changes here and there, but 10, don't know what's going to happen in that time. So KPIs come from a framework. A company sets its targets for a really green loop. We want to have achieved 3 billion or 5 billion turnover in the next 3 to 5 years. Yeah. And for us to get to that target, we need to have a roadmap. For you to have a roadmap, you need to have set target, which comes from you setting up a sustainability framework. Yeah. Yeah. The framework comes, and then after framework, that's when you develop your ESG policies that help you to measure where you want to get to and to keep you on track where you can achieve your goals within the set timelines. Yeah. Right now, where is ESG in Botswana? Everyone is advertising that there is ESG compliance, sustainability, that's a sustainable operating organization. Yeah. But there's no accountability for what's helping you measure that you are sustainable, because we know as experts in the industry. Yes. And unless if you have an international, but it's also limiting for you as a local company to bring an international to come and set up a framework for you, because it's tailor-made to the environment of Botswana. Yes. And an international coming into Botswana, a consultant cannot study our environment, our dynamics, the economy in 1 month for them to develop the framework for you. Yes. So right now, we're at a point where everyone is saying they're compliant, but they actually do not have frameworks in place.
So wait, let's get it up here. Who is supposed to be coming with these frameworks? Like each company would have its own set of guidelines, or there is a higher act or law or policy that would actually, govern how everybody else on the base does their things?
Botswana as a country, through our government, has committed to 15% carbon neutralization by 2030. Yeah. That's already at high level. Yes. Right? And it's a policy we've signed with the United Nations. The government has brought that to the country, but now corporates need to be accountable for them to set up their own frameworks within their own organizations. Yes. The government gets leadership or guidance from the United Nations. What do we need to do? What do we need to cut down on? It hasn't been enforced a lot by the government.
Yes, because I was going to ask you how far we are with that.
Yeah, they haven't enforced it, but that doesn't also mean that the private sector shouldn't play their part. Yeah. You don't need to be punished for you to do your job and be accountable and cut down on your emissions. As soon as maybe the Ministry of Finance, through our Honorable Peggy Sirame, sets up the carbon tax initiative, she's going to start charging people. The ministry is going to start charging people through BERS. Green Loop, you have a plant, it's emitting very bad carbon emissions. Charge more money for you operating, unless you change into greener alternatives of processing whatever you want to produce in Botswana. Yes. So it's still to be enforced, and through us also, we need to help the government, guys. Yeah. As we know, governments around the world are in deficits. Yeah. So it's about the triple P. public-private partnerships. We need to come together as privates. We're a private entity as well. And we do so much of awareness and speaking to try and get people to buy into this thing because it's something that affects all of us.
Yes.
Right? So the government has done what it has for now, but for now, the private companies need to engage environmental and sustainability consultants to come and study where they are, look at their targets, and help them develop those frameworks that speak to their targets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what type of industries would you say would need to have such a framework in place? What sort of companies should have such in place? Can I just, as Green Loop, now start to have that framework for my company at my micro level?
Yes. Sustainability has no pick on its sectors. It affects everyone, from the health sector to the manufacturing sector to the banking sector. So it's actually nice for us as experts go Green Loop because people always ask us, who are your target clients?
Yeah.
Everyone is our target client. But of course, we had to start somewhere with the industries that have the most budgets.
Yeah.
Because you need to talk to the pension funds. They're the ones that bring the money into the country. You need to talk to the banks, the ones that manage the money with the investors. You need to talk to the mining sector, which actually is one of our biggest sector that brings income, same as the tourism sector. But everyone is affected by this topic. We are SMME, and we're trying to implement this talk of sustainability and frameworks. It's a matter of you seeing what you can do. You take the steps that you can afford to take for now. One step I can tell you we've taken in Green Loop is to say we don't want plastic bottles in our office.
Yeah.
Yeah. We bought glass bottles that you can always refill water in, and we give our clients glasses to refill the water. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go for a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation. We're having a conversation with the founder of a woman-led consultancy in Botswana that deals with environmental sustainability issues, Miss Lindiwe Modise. This is the Convo Lounge podcast, and we would like to hear what you have to say on our social media platforms at Convo Lounge Africa or through our WhatsApp line, which is +267 7651 992.
This is the Convo Lounge. Expression, exposure, experience.
Welcome back to the Convo Lounge podcast, and we are having a conversation here around issues of environment, social and governance, sustainability, and we're talking to Miss Lindiwe Modise of Green Loop Consultancy, and we just talking just before we went to the break, we're just talking about how there is the uptake of ESG frameworks in our country, in Botswana, in Africa as a whole. We'll just get to that just now to see how this has been going. The conversations are there, the term is there, the word is buzzing, but the practices, what exactly is the challenge in these different companies taking up such frameworks?
Yeah. Actually, last week was Sustainability Week, as heads of nations and the cabinets went to, and climate change activists went to New York, to the United Nations headquarters to talk about the update, or how far are we?
Yes.
And I was reading that they were saying that 2030 is very close and targets have now been moved to 2050.
Haibo.
Yeah, because we're not even 15% close to where we need to be.
Yes.
And this is mainly because companies lack the knowledge and understanding the concept. I don't blame my country and fellow African countries for not knowing where to start. Everyone doesn't know where to start.
Yes.
Everyone doesn't know who should be allocated the task for sustainability in an organization. Sometimes you find it being thrown to the corporate side of the department. Sometimes you find it at marketing.
Yeah.
You find it at finance. And some organizations actually find they need to actually hire a sustainability consultant.
Yes.
Yeah. So the limitation for that I have seen, or we have seen as Green Loop in Botswana, is that our nation needs more awareness in being taught what is ESG. Like we're back in school. What is sustainability? They also you need to explain to companies, because they're profit-making companies.
Yes.
What is the value proposition of implementing an ESG framework? you need to explain to them that this is a high investment, because frameworks are expensive, because the consultant needs to come into your operations and study each and every department you have from top tier going down.
Yes.
And how you operate on a day-to-day basis. And most companies in Botswana don't have most of the information documented. It's very manual. It's on paper.
Yeah.
If it was on a system, you could easily analyze using your ERP system of where you are in terms of sustainability and carbon emissions. Some companies, such as Botswana Oil, they use a ERP system called SAP. They use SAP, which is embedded into the ERP system, which helps them with maybe accounting and stuff. It's got different modules, but they also have a carbon calculating tool module that can help a company know where they are in terms of emissions.
Yeah.
So we noticed as Green Loop that for our corporates and our government, or the private and public sector, for them to understand the topic of sustainability, we need to now bring a summit or a conference and bring heads of state to this conference, bring the CEOs, the CFOs, all sectors of the industry, from the SMMEs to the giant companies, to come and listen to us break it down.
Yes.
What is ESG? Why is it important? So on the 22nd to the 23rd of November this year, on 2023, Green Loop is gonna host the Botswana. I'll say the first. We've had a couple of summits, but I'll say the first and I'll explain why.
Yes.
The first Botswana Sustainability and ESG Summit 2023. It's gonna be annual for Green Loop. I'm saying the first because it's going to now be led by environmentalists. Mm-hmm. All the other ones that have been hosted are led by the financial sector, the finance sector, or led by people in the business development sector.
Yes.
But now is time for us as environmentalists and sustainability experts to come and say, we understand this way because this is how it's affecting the environment, coming with data and numbers and matrices.
Yes.
Because when we're undertaking environmental impact assessments, we use matrix systems.
Yes.
Right, which range from it's a color tool also that it ranges from green to red. Where are we? When I say Green Loop is not doing well, you're in the red zone. What do I mean? What factors am I pointing at to get you to this point? So that summit is going to bring a lot of awareness. And like I always say, it's a thing that has to start from top tier going down.
Yeah.
We need the government there. We need the private sector there for accountability. We are not the government. We need to hold the government's hand for us to get to where we want to get to as a country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that a company is for profit and we're looking to be making money, but what's in it for us?
Yeah.
If we are to have, such a framework or be compliant in such a space.
Sustainability frameworks are high investment. They're going to cost you a lot.
Yeah.
That's why they need a higher budget. That's what companies need to understand. But it's a long-term benefit.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. If you as a company transition to buying solar panels now, green solar panels, which are accredited by a ESG specialist, not yourself.
Yeah.
That means you are removing your operation off of the grid.
Yes.
Your BPC.
Yes.
That means you are relieving the parastatal of pressure to supply you as a giant company, right?
Yes.
You can afford to buy yourself solar panels. Now you've got solar panels. That means the electricity that BPC was pumping to your building can maybe go to rural areas for people that couldn't receive electricity. That's you helping the communities.
Yeah.
You are diverting. Over the long course, you've invested in solar panels. It's an asset that belongs to you as a company. Your bill for electricity becomes non-existent.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes dependent on maybe if you've got your solar panels have problems, you can switch to the grid for BPC or you can get off the grid.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you are saving costs, right? Plastic bottles. You get into meetings, everyone gives you a plastic bottle. That's a one-use bottle.
Yeah.
After that, it goes to the landfill, and now our landfills are getting to a point where they cannot take any more waste. Transition to having glass bottles, right? Or having water dispensers that can be refilled. You then eliminate the cost of you buying plastic bottled water every month and divert that budget into something else. So ESG, actually, it's a high investment to develop the framework, but it's a cost-saving tool for the long term.
Yes.
Where here, if you're a company, you know you're looking for long-term benefits, not short-term benefits. If you're looking for short-term benefits, then you're not there for profit-making, or you're not a sustainable company.
Yes.
Those are the kind of elements as environmentalists or sustainability experts that we show by examples. This is what you save. We're here to help you save and make profit. Then you can get to your 3 billion target in 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then how then do you use that to create impact in society? I would understand the social part.
Yeah.
Element, giving back to the community. How do you bring it into play there?
I think I'll go back to you getting off the grid.
Yes.
You're giving people who can't get power from BPC because the BPC can only produce so much,
yes,
to lighting their houses.
Yes.
This is you giving back. And annually companies produce things called financial reports. Now we're producing things called integrated reports,
yes,
which means you are integrating how you are being sustainable as an organization into your financials. And within there, you can report for really green loop we're off the grid now, and we're giving back to the community by lighting the houses.
Yes.
I don't believe in the culture that we've always had of when it's end of year, we go in and donate food to households. That is not sustainable. We are getting communities to learn how to be dependent on companies and the government. We need to make our communities independent. Yeah, take them to school. When you take Lindiwe to school, if she's in a rural area, you are capacitating her to know what you can actually think for yourself and develop a concept that you can implement to enhance the economy and yourself.
Yeah.
Next thing, you're not asking for money from anyone. So capacity building, moving off the grid, building schools, those are things that are long-term impact, because you need to invest your money when it comes to CSR in country-wide impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, that should be your target.
Yeah.
Not a target for maybe a certain community. No, then that's not a sustainable tool of way of you investing your money.
Yes. You did mention that is a very taxing practice to go to. How then would companies finance such?
Companies have money, but companies have their own priorities.
Yeah.
So it's up to you if you're a CFO or a CEO and you sit and you think, what is important? Yeah. Are you ready to take the risk of you being called out for you are harming the environment, the communities, and you're not complying with governance, international governance, because the SDGs are international governance for us. It's a matter of you sitting down with your exco, right, and bring it back to the table. Let's reprioritize.
Yeah.
Sustainability has to be top tier right now, and everything falls under that. Because when we come in as experts, we are going to look at your whole organization, and you need to have the budget for that.
Yeah.
You know, corporate hampers and entertaining your employees at parties, Christmas parties, are what our corporates spend a lot of money on, unfortunately.
Yes.
So now we need to divert funds and actually divert those funds to maybe sustainability courses for our employees. You know, those come into the framework as well of you changing.
Yeah, but then what are let's look at the value chains that would exist in such a space, right? To say when you come to a point where now you are working with a company and you want to see that this company is actually getting to a point where you'd want us to get to. I understand you said that we are not really there yet, but I understand there should be a spot where you want to push us to. What is that spot, and how would you measure that we are slowly or gradually getting to that spot?
When we started our conversation, I mentioned KPIs, key performance indicators. Those are the ones that tell us if you are getting to where the targets you've been set for sustainability. Those are the policies that show us if you're getting to the target. Because like I mentioned earlier, we use matrices for us to measure. I come in, I see that you're using plastic bottles and this is your budget for plastic bottles. I record that. I'm gathering data, right? Or the system captures, if you're using an SAP system, it captures that Bakang just went out and bought plastic bottles, and it automatically, with the calculation for carbon emission, tells us how much carbon emissions you're adopting into the organization. And when you transition into something, a green alternative of purchasing water for your organization, the system also calculates that Bakang used to spend this much on water. Now he's transitioned to a green alternative. The percentage of carbon emissions now drops and it's recorded.
Yeah.
And when Lindiwe comes into your system to review where you are now after a month or 3 months for analysis, I can see that due to the costing, the purchasing, the costing and the calculation, your carbon emission. So we use carbon emissions for that and also what you purchase as organization. Right?
Yeah.
It's different matrices. They vary for different organizations depending on how you operate.
So yes, Lindiwe. So with that, I guess there would be a lot of savings that are there in the company, and maybe then let's talk about the issue of green bonds.
Yeah.
To save that money, how then would you then put it back into the economy so that it could help to finance the sustainability or the implementation of such projects?
Yeah. So first of all, a green bond. I think the first green bond which was launched in Africa was in Cape Town a couple of years back. And we don't have a green bond currently in Botswana that was established here, but I'm hopeful that it will come about very soon because everyone is now talking about.
Yeah, you should push it at the summit.
Yeah. We'll push it at the summit that we'll open a green bond. So a green bond is basically a tool, an instrument of which corporates or the government donate the money that they want for the rehabilitation of the environment and communities within it. Everyone brings money into it. Yeah. Then that green bond, that instrument has specific instructions that it only finances green projects for the enhancement and protection of the environment and the societies within it, complying to international regulations of sustainability. Yeah. And normally it's governed or managed by investors, but the lead person managing a green bond is a sustainability expert because we come in and assess, Bakang, you want to start a plant, a paper plant. Is it a self-sustainable plant? Because for you to have a paper plant that recycles waste paper, it needs a lot of resources. It needs water and it needs power. Yeah. Are you going to put your own solar panels? Because the amount of power you need is going to take power from the communities around you. Is it going to recycle its own water to keep itself sustainable? Because the amount of water you need is going to reduce water, is going to cut down or create a shortage for water for the communities around you. Yeah. So that's where you need a sustainability expert to guarantee the investors that this is a green bond because of A, B, C, D, looking at the criteria we've put aside or set aside for funding certain projects. Yeah.
But when you talk about that, are there any projects that you might be aware of in the country that maybe are running on funding from those green bonds internationally?
Currently, I'm not really aware, but I think NDB recently, in partnership with GIZ, the Germans, they recently launched a project of funding climate smart agricultural projects. We call it, is it CSA? Yeah, Climate Smart Agricultural Project. So that's still to implement it, but I think it was launched, a month and a half back. To start in engaging on such concepts. We as Green Loop want to start up the first biodegradable packaging plant in the country, but we're kind of finding it hard to get the local financing institutions or parastatals to fund us because then they don't understand the concept.
It still goes back to your issue of not being aware of what this is all about.
Yeah, because I always go back, I'm like, guys, why wouldn't you want to fund this? It's like it's a life-changing thing because it's going to create employment, of course, but it will show that Botswana has started a move towards sustainable projects. Yeah. We have available the National Environmental Fund under the Department of Environmental Affairs, of which they read our reports and approve them. But that fund, unfortunately, it's restricted to NGOs, and some of us are profit-making companies. Yeah. We also have the Global Environmental Fund, GEF, that I think the government is always complaining that Botswana don't apply for it. But same as the National Environmental Fund, it's meant for NGOs. Okay. So we've got limitations when it comes to us as experts. We have concepts that we want to implement, but we find it hard to find the funding. So right now we're still in search of international funding that does support profit-making companies. It's there.
Yeah.
So this year, in the next year, I'm sure next time we catch up, I'll be telling you something different that we're funded now by an international
And
body.
also, I believe maybe this is where like collaborations might come in. You are the experts. These NGOs that are having, their own operations as well, just to bring them together so that we don't work in silos. That is something that is very prominent in Botswana for us to be fighting the same cause, but then we are working in silos. It doesn't really benefit us to where we would want it to be. Maybe your last words to our beautiful viewers at home and our listeners of the podcast.
Yeah, I think I'd just like to tell everyone that sustainability is for us all, and we're all accountable for our emissions, and we can't leave them to the government. We need to assist. Like, I go back to the Triple P initiative, public-private partnerships, and that we shouldn't be scared. Don't panic.
Yeah.
Just call an expert.
Yeah.
Just call an expert and afford them the time to explain to you why you need this, and get the right budget. Don't argue to not want to pay. Just get the right expert and pay for the frameworks, because they will help you in the long run.
Yeah.
I always tell people, you could be the first person to have implemented ESG in your company, and you're going to be the head of that department because of the initiative you're bringing, because something new in Botswana. Sustainability is all about collaborations, like you're saying. Without it, we can't go anywhere as a country.
And I guess Green Loop is open for people to come in and ask you as the expert.
Yes, you can come and ask us. We're located in Sotloa Retail Park, in Unit 9. You can go to our website as well, www.greenloop.co.bw, to find out more about us. And we've got all our contact information there, even on social media.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us, Lindiwe.
Thank you so much for the
all
time.
the best of luck and your future endeavors, and we'll see you at the summit.
Thank you so much.
All right. This is how we come to the end of Convo Lounge podcast for this episode. I hope that it was as insightful as I found it to be. And like we said, it's all about us coming together to collaborate and make sure that we take care of our environment and save the future for the best. Bye.
This is the Convo Lounge. Expression, exposure, experience.